Hello everyone, my name is Keegan and I am currently an architecture student at a university, and this video is going to be about roof trusses. So there has been some times where I'm looking back at a lot of my projects and I kind of come to a realization that I really don't remember much how I created some of the things in the project process. I do a lot of research and I do a lot of like video watching and understanding how to use applications such as Revit and Photoshop and many things like that. But there have been times when I just obviously just haven't used it for a project in quite some time and I want to use it for a project in the future and don't necessarily remember how to use that. So I'm going to be making videos like this on it, just so that I can always refresh and look back as to how I did certain things such as roof trusses. And also you can, if you're watching this right now, you can use this video for your education as well. If you do enjoy it, please give it a like. If you have any suggestions to what I should make a video on next time, give it a comment in this one, and then you can subscribe if you want. The whole point of this channel is essentially just going to be for more towards my understanding as to how I do things, but a subscribe is always nice. You know, I'm never going to say no to one. So essentially this video is going to be about roof trusses, essentially how to make one like this. This one is consisted of having coping happening in between the beams. The material that I chose was dimensional lumber, and then I have basic common Simpson plates that connect the beams together. So that's what this video is going to consist of, and it's going to show you how to do it. Okay, so first what you want to do is you want to kind of upload the structural truss that you want to use for your roofing. This one is called a mono truss, otherwise known as a shed truss as well. I had to remake this truss because Revit's family and library does not have a shed truss or a mono truss, unfortunately, so I had to make this one from scratch. I do plan on making a video in the future how to make a structural truss like this through a completely blank structural truss Revit family. I'll probably make that within the next, I don't know, a couple weeks or so, or a couple days would probably be better because it connects to this video. But essentially, you just want to upload the structural truss that works well for your roof. And when you actually click on it, and when you go to the edit type section, you probably won't be able to view the type properties. The screen recorder that I'm using doesn't show anything other than Revit, and it doesn't show any pop-ups of Revit, unfortunately. But if you click on the edit type section, and there are a few sections that are in there, there's a top chords, which will be the top part of the truss, the vertical webs, which are the webs that go up and down in the system, the diagonal webs, which are the diagonal parts of the truss, and then the bottom chord, which is the bottom part of the truss. Essentially, each chord and web section has this title called structural framing type. And when you click on the framing type that's shown there, you have various options, and it also depends on which ones you have loaded into your Revit file. For me, mine is the Glulam Western Species 5.125 by 12. So we're just going to stick to that. It's just going to be dimensional lumber that we'll be using for this truss. So now what we want to do is we want to take each individual truss or each individual beam, and we're going to extrude it. Basically, we're going to take it and we're going to protrude it to the top chords and bottom chords. So you're just going to pull it like that, and you're pull it like that. Make sure it doesn't go completely through. It can if you want, but just in case like system error occurs, just make sure you don't go completely through. Yeah. There may be an instance where you're unable to pull them like I am. What you want to make sure is that, like for this one, for example, I can't really pull on it. You just want to make sure that you unpin it. And once you unpin it, you have the ability to stretch it and change its length. So we're just going to quickly do that to all the beams. I'm going to stretch this one out just a tiny bit more. There we go. Pull that one just a bit more. There we go. Keep pulling on the movement ones and not necessarily the the length ones. We'll actually want to align the top of this one with the top of that one, so then we get a clean cut, such as that. All right, and then we're just gonna make sure we extrude this to the top, like so, and then extrude this to the bottom, like so. Okay, perfect. Now it's already starting to look like this truss over here, which is awesome. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically cut each beam in the truss to basically cope. And coping is just basically removing part of the beam so then it fits snugly with the other beam that you're trying to cope it with. So how to do this, essentially you're just going to go to the Modify tab, which is on your tab up here, and there's this button that says Apply Coping. So it might show the diagram right here. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to click on the beam that you want to cope with the other beam with. It says that you have option to go through, and you want to click that beam, and then you want to click the beam that you want to snug it with and essentially make a pocket for. So what we're going to have to do is we're just going to click Apply Coping. We're going to click the beam that we want to cope, and then we want to click the beam that we want to cope it to. So as you can see right there, it created a basically a space in between the beams, which is what we want. And you're going to do this for all of the beams. One thing that I would recommend that you make sure you do is not this. So if you can see right here, this is not how you want the beam to form. You want to make sure that all the top and bottom chords of the beam are not cut. And then you want to make sure that the vertical ones are not cut like this as well. So the only ones that really get edited in the structural truss are the diagonal ones. So we're going to go back there really quick, and we're just going to fix it like that. And then for the top chord and bottom chord, just make sure that you cut those to cope with the vertical ends of the trusses. So we're just going to quickly go through these. Just did what I said not to do. There we go. And then you're going to obviously have two that conflict with each other. You just want to make sure that the vertical one is the one that's not being cut. So you want to click on the diagonal one and then the vertical. So then the vertical is not cut whatsoever. Sometimes it can get really confusing because as you're working through it, you're just kind of clicking buttons, and then there's points where you're like, wait, I was supposed to click the other beam, not the one that I'm clicking on right now. See, just did it there. All right, so far it's looking pretty good. I don't believe this one is close enough. Oh, I guess it is. Okay. All right, perfect. So now that we've completely done that, I'm gonna try and stretch this one out just a tiny bit more. If it's not gonna let me, that's perfectly fine. Okay, it's not gonna let me, which is completely fine. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the coping distance. And what the coping distance is the space, the distance of the space in between the both beams. So one thing that I would recommend doing is first, if you go to your roof plan or whatever plan that you want to use to basically be able to see the beams, create a section that is right next to the structural truss that you're going to modify, and I'll explain that later. But essentially make one like that, and you're going to go to the section that you made, and kind of just zoom in to see how this will essentially work. So what you want to do is you want to click on one of the structural beams that you have within your system. And on the properties tab over here, if you want to just scroll down into the structural section, you can see the coping distance. Coping distance, like I said before, is the distance between two beams. Right now we have it set as 1 inch in between all the beams that it intersects. For the example that I did on the other side of the truss is I did a 1/8 inch distance, and this is probably the most minimal that you can go with a truss other than the fact that you'd be having them touch each other. So we're just going to modify it correctly to 1/8 inch, and it's obviously going to be different based on how much weight that you're going to have to hold in terms of the roof, and what material that you're using as well, instead of using the glulam beams or the dimensional lumber, and also the kind of connections that you have. So it really just depends. I'm just using 1/8 inch because it is giving me the ability to make it look like it's connected professionally from this far of a view, especially for a section where I will be having a section cut like this. So we'll just go back in real quick and we'll just edit all of them. Okay, so far so good. All right, perfect. Starting to look very nice, very smooth. So now all that we have left to do is create the plates, the Simpson plates that connect the beams to each other. So essentially what a Simpson plate is essentially it acts like a cheese grater. If you've ever really seen one close up, it essentially will connect to both of the beams or all the beams that it needs to and apply enough friction and pressure so that they stay snug together. You want to make sure that you have one plate that covers all the beams that connect to each other. So for example, I have a 45-degree one here that covers all three. There are various types of shapes for these plates. For now, I'm just using a basic, I believe it's going to be 8 inch by 12 inch. Yep, so 8 inch width by 12 inch in length. So, and just repeating it to wherever necessary. So you can just see I have one up there to connect to, one's able to connect to 3 here. Unfortunately, I cannot use just one here, so I decided to use 2, and so on and so forth. This is up really to your discretion and how you essentially want to show how you're having the plates work collectively with the structural truss. So I'm just going to show you how to make one, and it's very simple to just basically you can copy and paste or just create similar. You can just place them in the section that you made. So first what you want to do is you want to click in 3D view. You just want to make sure you're in this view, and you're going to click on steel, and you're going to click this button that's called plate. Now once you do that, you're going to have to click a plane. So you're going to do set work plane, and to make it easier for you, when the work plane tab pops up, under specify a new work plane, pick a plane and click OK. So now you want to make sure that you're highlighting this side of the structural truss that you have the section facing. And once you do that, head to your section, and now we're able to create the base plate. So essentially, like I said before, I had a 1 foot by 8 inch plate, as so. And then I just kind of guesstimate and place it really in a kind of a sum of all three that it has to deal with over here. I don't necessarily have to be very practical with this. It's just for aesthetic purposes. So once you click the checkmark button, you now have a base plate. So if you look out here, you have one. Hooray! So now if you just go back to this and you do create similar, I guess create similar does not work, just use copy. It's always easy. And you can just easily copy and paste them over, kind of, fix them up to your discretion. And if you just keep going to the 3D view, you can see that it stays on that plane that you chose to make the base plate on. And just basically change the angles and make it look very nice. And you got yourself an exact replica of the structural truss that I have right here. So I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, give a comment down into this video description, and let me know what other videos that you'd like me to make for y'all. I will for sure be making videos to kind of help myself get through many other various projects that I'll be working on throughout my career. Again, if I said it before, give it a like if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you want to see more of this content and to be notified on it. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.